जन्मदिनमिदं है प्रिय सखे जन्मदिनमिदं है प्रिय सखे शन्तनोतु ते सर्वदा भूतं प्रार्थयामहे भवशतायुषी प्रार्थयामहे भवशतायुषी ईश्वरा सदा त्वां च रक्षतु पुण्यकर्मणा कीर्तिमर्जया पुण्यकर्मणा कीर्तिमर्जया जीवनं तव भवतु सार्थकं जन्मदिनमिदं है प्रिय सखे शन्तनोतु ते सर्वदा मुदं सर्वदा मुदम्. Yes, you just heard the birthday song in Sanskrit. Yes, today is the birthday of a very dynamic and vibrant person. So whose birthday is it? Her name can be described thus. N for noble, both in terms of the qualities she displayed as well as her birth name. I for Ireland or Irish born. V for Vivekananda. She was Swami Vivekananda's disciple and spiritual daughter. E, she was an empowerer of women's education and rights. D, dedicated one. I for India. T for teacher and A for activist. So ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you all to the 154th birth anniversary of Sister Nivedita. And this is Sharanya Bharadwaj, your host for the day. A warm welcome to one and all present here, and for those who have logged in Zoom. So firstly, I would like to invite our very own revered Swami Vimokshananda ji. As we all know, he's adored by all his devotees for his exemplary oratorical skills and admired for his in-depth knowledge in Indian Puranas, scriptures, Vedas, and Shastras, to name a few. I now cordially invite him to kindly render the opening prayer and welcome speech. Thank you.
Akhanda mandalakaram yaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sahana bhavatu sahanau bhunattu sahaviryam karavavahe vinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dear devotees and friends, today, as it is announced, the 154th birth anniversary of Sister Nivedita is being celebrated. All over the world, wherever the Ramakrishna Mission has got branches, and wherever the devotees of Vivekananda are congregating, Nivedita's birthday is very important. Today, as I welcome you heartily, everyone, for this function, I just say a few words of a dream of Nivedita. You know, sometimes we say a dream of such and such a person. Say a project is considered as a dream of certain person. Like that we say. It's not like that. It's actually a dream she had while asleep. Sister Nivedita's dream is very important because many of our devotees of this center, Irish Center, they undergo a 2-day course on dream interpretation, which is usually conducted by Swami Purnananda ji. So he actually explains how to understand a dream. So let us try, those who have done the course, they must try to understand how Nivedita's dream is to be analyzed. So Nivedita, when she was in Calcutta, she used to visit Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi. Among themselves, they had very good relation. What relation, what type of relation they had? Holy Mother used to consider Nivedita as Kuki. In Bengali, Kuki means a child. So she was her child and she used to love her so much. And Nivedita started learning the language, the Bengali language, to such an extent she could smack a few words or a few sentences. And while speaking those sentences, she would be speaking like a child. A 3-year-old baby started growing and is learning language and how it speaks and how it is so sweet. In the same way, Holy Mother used to consider Nivedita speaking Bengali as such a sweet language. And then she used to come with the different times. When she comes, she would be always giving a surprise to Holy Mother. One day she came to Holy Mother wearing the Bengali type of sari. You can imagine Sister Nivedita as an Irish woman wearing a Bengali type of sari. Just imagine in your mind. And she has come to Holy Mother. And she was sitting with Holy Mother and talking in Bengali. And Holy Mother also enjoys her Bengali language. And the beauty of that traditional type of Bengali wearing of sari is that while the sari is draped around the body, at the end of that pallu, as we call it, at the end of the sari, there is a bunch of keys are tied. So you'll find normally in the old ladies in the houses, you'll find that a bunch of keys are there. That keys, all the types of locks that you have got keys. So those keys were there. She has got the keys, but she couldn't adjust that keys. The keys are quite heavy and she could adjust. So the upside, the garment, that portion was falling again and again. And she's trying to put it over her shoulder again and again. So at that time, the bunch of keys making a sound. So that sound was very sweet sound. So everybody was enjoying that. At that time, Holy Mother uttered, seeing the simplicity of Nivedita, she uttered a beautiful phrase. Bairevo bhalo, bairevo sada, biterevo shada. This is the Bengali term she used. Literally speak, how do you translate this? Outside white, inside also white. This is a literal translation. But certain words are not interpreted literally. They have got deep meaning. So outside white means one who has got a fair-skinned color. So Nivedita was, of course, a European. So she was fair-skinned, no doubt. So outside she was white. But inside white means the white stands for purity, guilelessness, simplicity. So all these qualities are full of the Nivedita. So she said, inside also she is white. So this is the statement Mother made. Then Nivedita started asking Mother, what is this meaning? And how did you say this, etc., etc. She was being more curious. So she was asking Mother, you must explain to me. Then Mother said, see, I'm talking about those days of Dakshineswar. In Dakshineswar, when Master was there, one day I took a plate of meals for him. And when I entered his room, I saw Master was asleep. So I thought I should not disturb him now. So quietly I'm standing there. And Master slowly opened his eyes. And he looked at me and he said, oh, you have brought the meals. Okay. I went to a far-off place. I traveled to a far-off place where I found some people who are all Bhairavu Shada, Bitaru Shada. This is the word he used. And the same phrase, that is, outside also they look white, inside also they are full of purity, so they are white. This is what Master said. Far off place he went. And immediately, Sister Nivedita is a very scientific woman. She would not just accept everything. So she said, Ma, you tell me, when did this happen? Now, Mother was an illiterate village woman, you all know. And she was not looking at the calendar, etc., like us, you see. So she doesn't know what date, month, etc. So she was telling such and such. period, perhaps it was like this. And then she started remembering, oh, it was during the Ratha Yatra day. This happened, she said. So Sister Nivedita noted down. The Ratha Yatra is a very big function in Puri, where the big Jagannath Ratha, that is a chariot, is drawn by lakhs and lakhs of people. So thousands of people come on that day. So the Ratha Yatra day, she said. So Sister Nivedita wrote down. And when she came home, she met one of her friends, Sachibhushan. So she asked Sachibhushan, you compare your almanac and tell me what date it can be put into in the English calendar. So that man made research again. And then he found out the date. And surprisingly, that very date, Nivedita writes a diary. She keeps a diary and goes on writing. All her incidents are written in the diary. So in that diary, on that date, she says that tonight I was so peaceful. I dreamt of a person, a saint. That much she noted down. Now that date and her dream date were same date. And when, after a long time, I'm telling this incident happened in Dakshineswar when Sri Ramakrishna was there. After a long time, when Swami Vivekananda went to England and Nivedita met him in London, at that time, she took him as her guru. Then one day, she brought the diary to Swami Vivekananda and showed him Swamiji. No, before showing the diary, she found Swami Vivekananda was having a small photograph of Sri Ramakrishna. She doesn't know who is the Ramakrishna. So she asked Swami Vivekananda, whose picture you are carrying? Then Swami Vivekananda says, he is my guru. His name is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And this Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, under whose feet I was fortunate to learn and sit under. So then you can now understand, she later understood, when she came to, of course, mother, she knew who was Ramakrishna. But the date was very wonderfully matching. So this was a dream. The dream came true. So Sri Ramakrishna had come to all these places. He has come to Europe, he has come to America, and to how many devotees he must have given this his darshan in the sleep of so many people. And when they are white outside, yes, Bayre Sada, outside white, but they are inside also. Because of purity, they are white, because white represents purity. And such people, yes, he must have given darshan. And that's why today you find white-skinned people coming to Sri Ramakrishna, drawn to Sri Ramakrishna. Either this birth or in their previous birth, Sri Ramakrishna must have visited them in their dream. This is what just my generalization. But then, so with these few words, I welcome all of you. Let us enjoy this beautiful evening where we have nice speeches by different Swamis. And I welcome Swami Sarvasthananda from UK, who will be also talking to us. And yes, other three Swamis also, Swami.
Okay, I'll go to the sound.
Huh? Telling something? Are you telling something, Maharaj? Okay. Swami Purnananda also will be talking to us from France. And Swami Shantivratananda, who has already reached here in my place, he will be talking to you today from this place only. So,
Maharaj, ami chobi bolchi.
Okay. So all of you are welcome. Shubhidi also is welcome. Don't worry. We have welcomed everyone. So now let us proceed with the program. And I hand over to
Thank you very much, Swamiji. Thank you for that profound thoughts. After each participant, we are just planning to have a small question or a quiz round. So whoever gets the answer right will get a prasad of a chocolate from one of the Swamijis here. So the very first question is, in which year was Sister Nivedita born? So it's a giveaway because today is the 154th birthday. So we can just calculate. Yes, what's the
1867.
1867, yes. we have, yeah, I'm just going to turn so he gets a blessing chocolate from Swamiji. Yeah, for the virtual audience, chocolates will be posted. Okay, if you just know the answer, you can just post it in the chat window. All right. Now, coming up next is a person who's bestowed with abundant grace and blessings of the Holy Trio and Sister Nivedita. Last year, I had the opportunity to attend the Dreams Interpretation Workshop, which Swami Vimokshananda was talking about, which is normally conducted by Swami Purnananda. Whilst we all had funny dreams, weird dreams, mysterious dreams, this person alone dreamt about Sister Nivedita. Such is a connection and inclination. I now cordially invite Jean McGuinness from Dungannon Square for a greetings message. Welcome, Jean.
And greetings, Swami. Greetings to everyone. Huge welcome on this, the 154th birth anniversary of Sister Nivedita of Ramakrishna. It is also the 10th anniversary of the first visit by Swami Purnananda and some devotees from the Éire Vedanta Society in Dublin to Dungannon. And I'm delighted to say that has been a lasting friendship with Swami Purnananda and also the devotees and the centre. Since that first visit, Dungannon, the birthplace of Sister Nivedita, Margaret Elizabeth Noble, since that first visit, there have been numerous swamis from all over the world who have come to pay a pilgrimage to Sister Nivedita here in Dungannon, and we welcome them all, and we are blessed, and it really shows how revered and how respected Sister Nivedita is all over the world. I recall one particular visit, I think it was the second visit of Swami Sarvasthananda of Bellarmine, the Vice President. And when he was being interviewed in front of the blue plaque, which we have to commemorate her birth here in Dungannon, the interviewer asked him, why do so many people from India come to Dungannon to pay respects to Sister Nivedita? And he replied that it was a place of pilgrimage for them, and that it was every bit as important to these people, to these pilgrims, as the Ganges. The interviewer was really surprised and asked him to repeat this. And he said, yes, it was extremely important as a place of pilgrimage. I will go on to talk about some thoughts that I have, some musings about Sister Nivedita, and to read a few short extracts from some short books. When I think of Sister Nivedita, her life and her legacy, the word peels comes into mind. And I'm thinking of the word that is spelled P-E-A-L-S. And this reminds me of chiming and ringing and tinkling of bells, which so many religions and culture use as a call to prayer. So I keep that word in mind. And it is only 5 major aspects. There were other aspects of Nivedita's life. Then I take each letter in reverse. The S for spirituality, the L for literature, A for art. She revolutionized the Bengal art movement, encouraging them to stay away from Hellenistic involvement. E is for education. She was a major influence on the education of women in India. And P for political. And then I think, what was it that made Nivedita the right person for India at that time? And of course, the answer came from Vivekananda himself when he said, India at present has no strong women of its own, so we must borrow them from other nations. And he clarified that by saying, you, with your sincerity, your purity, your determination, but above all your Celtic blood, make you just the woman we need. And to me, this firmly cements strong links between the Ramakrishna movement and this Celtic blood. I do sometimes wonder how Ireland would have fared if she had returned and worked here. Would there have been less conflict and strife here over these last years? And at that time, I think Ireland's loss was India's gain. In relation to some of those aspects, I would take a short extract. This one is from Pavarika's Atma Prana's book. In relation to political, she took great interest in the plans and work of all the leaders who held different political views, and they all knew her. They were all impressed by her great intellect, her brilliant oratory, and above all, her love for India. They did not consider her as a foreigner, as the following tributes show. Surendranath Banerjee said, she was an Indian through and through, an Indian to the very marrow of her bones. Mahatma Gandhi, I could not but notice and admire her overflowing love for Hinduism. J.K. Gokhale, she came to us because she felt the call of India. She came to us because she felt the fascination of India. She came to give to India the worship of her heart and to take her place among India's sons and daughters in the great work that lies before us all. Bipin Chandra Pal, I doubt whether any Indian loved India the way Nivedita loved her. Rash Bahari Ghosh, if the dry bones are beginning to stir, it is because Sister Nivedita breathed the breath of life into them. What wonderful tribute. Referring to her literature, we read that through her writings, Nivedita became known to an even wider circle. Nivedita wrote in prose, but her prose had the naturalness and freshness of poetry. She had mastery over words. She wrote about things that were known so well to Indians, yet nothing seemed commonplace in her writings. As Ramananda Chatterjee wrote, even the most hackneyed topics were invested by her pen with new power and grace. Among her books, the best known is The Master as I Saw Him, a book on Swami Vivekananda. She also wrote Notes on Some Wanderings with Swami Vivekananda, which tells us more about her travels with him. She wrote about Hindu mythology and the gods and goddesses. The result was a beautiful book called Kali the Mother, Shiva and Buddha, the cradle tales of Hinduism and myths of the Hindus and Buddhists. Three other famous books which tell the world about Indian life and thought are The Web of Indian Life, Studies from an Eastern Home, and An Indian Study of Love and Death. Her books called Religion and Dharma and Lambs Among Wolves tell us about the Hindu religion. A record of her pilgrimage in the Himalayas is found in the book called Kedarnath and Badri Narayan, A Pilgrim's Diary. She also wrote on education, the history of India, and Indian national ideals. All these writings are found in her three books, Hints on India, Hints on National Education in India, Footfalls of Indian History, and Civic and National Ideals. I think that what will follow now will be some photos and images set to music, which will bring us from Dungannon to India. Among the photos which follow, we will see images of Dungannon as it would have looked like in the time of Sister Nivedita. We will also see one of her when she was head girl in Calderdale School in England. Also, images of her designs of the Thunderbolt, which she used to design the first national flag of India. There will be images of Sister Nivedita schools, the Sister Nivedita Bridge in Kolkata, which will feature a photo of her image on a postage stamp, which was issued in her honor in 1967. Nivedita believed that India could not be great and powerful unless there was unity. She was never tired of speaking about this. It is true, she said, that in India we have many races, many religions, and many kinds of social conditions. But that does not mean that all cannot be united into one. She looked upon all the people of India as the different limbs of the mother. Thus, the people of the north were her arms, the people of the south her brain, and the people of the east her heart. This unity was not superficial, she said, but real. And if only we accept it, we shall be united, and all our problems will be solved. Once, she most prayerfully made a suggestion for achieving this sense of unity among us. She said, if we could all agree to give, say, 10 minutes every evening at the oncoming of darkness to thinking a single thought, that thought being, we are one, we are one. Nothing can prevail against us to make us think we are divided. We are one, and all antagonisms amongst us are illusion. The power that would then be generated would hardly be able to be measured. Thus, Sister Nivedita continued to work for the good of India, as she had always wished to do. So tonight, on this 154th birth anniversary of Sister Nivedita, I ask sincerely that you all reflect on this thought so powerfully suggested by Nivedita. We are all one. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your engrossing talk, Jean. It was really moving, really touching. Thank you so much for your words. Now, before we invite the next participant, this is question number 2, quiz number 2. What is the name of the ship in which Sister Nivedita traveled to India? What is the name of the ship in which Sister Nivedita traveled to India? Anyone? You can send in your answers as a chat. Is anyone here? Anyone here?
Is it Mombasa?
Yes, perfect. Sangamitra, yes, Sangamitra has answered it correct. Mombasa. Mombasa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's Mombasa. Is it correct? So yes, on behalf of Sangamitra, probably we can. You can nominate any of them to receive the chocolate on your behalf. All right. So yes. So what do I say about the next person? His name is Brian, but he's the brain behind, or say the hand behind, all the structural and architectural marvel of Nivedita House. Welcoming our own Vishwakarma, Brian, to render a song on Celtic lioness. The beauty of this song is the lyrics have been penned by Swami Purnananda ji, and the music has been composed by Brian himself. So Brian, please come to the dais, please.
Shania, revered Swamijis, devotees and friends, it's a great honor to be able to render this beautiful poem of Swami Purnananda's in music form as a humble offering to Sister Nivedita on the occasion of her birthday. So I'm going to make a little noise also. Nivedita, 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 Nivedita. She had from early childhood days, and in her arms to serve the poor, and coax young minds towards the best. Thoughts the schools she did apply. Desire for deeper truth and draw an Eastern master in strange guise. Fine ladies drawing room, she to the coax the seeking mind. More study still to firm belief, his words were called to greater light. Where love and skill need reward, greater need to all be served. In the Eastern place with keenness fresh, she learned and loved the curious way. Sights and sounds of simple life to call her in holy land. With blessings from Mother Divine and Master's guiding lightning light, she entered sacred in her cave of subtle heart and God profound. Now dedicated life toward her task, she sought to serve where'er she could. Shakti and young and old, and so restore great nations. If he would seem as Lion King, then she was daughter Lion. Brilliant fire that warmly shone on faces of the yearning young. God is seen in ragged dress and plague and farming round the street. Worship him, hands, heart and soul, and heal the sores, soothe our distress. Nivedita, 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 Nivedita. Care not for dirt, disease, nor death, or cutting rage shall scorn the birds. 1,000 years of heel on head have forced one another unto this. God is black, his same mother, whose frantic limbs announce the dawn. Whose mouth and glowing tongue devour, whose cry one day not found. In my desperate love for safe soil and sacred land, where saints and sages did abound, strong rulers' ways defended well. Is the antiquity of culture dead, where art and science made a home, and it unites with newborn truths as much as Athens greater alone. Take courage from a Celtic band, whose gift unfolds the strength well. Empress Queen can reign from far, but victory not when lords oppress. Now stay in the cool of mountain air, you gave your all without a rest. Your body spent and made its mark, your words inspired the best of men. Our children sing of feathers gone, of viceroy shame, and you. Eternal prize of timeless peace, to meet with joy, Godina run. His words came forth, let Paras rise, in 5 decades the shackles down. To teach the world all paths are true, no need to hate when none is in. Nivedita, 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 Nivedita. Now teach the world all paths be true. No need to hate when oneness is.
A big round of applause for Brian, please. He was completely soaked in the lyrics and he just brought out the essence of the song. Thank you so much, Brian. And now, before we proceed, the next question coming up for all of you. Sister Nivedita is well known by people as Lokamata. That's people's mother. So who bestowed this title on her? Anyone here? Open for Swamiji's.
This can also get choices.
Who is it?
What did you say? I got him say
Anyone? Yes, please.
Rabindranath Tagore.
Yes, Rabindranath Tagore. Yes, Sangamitra once again. Yes. Perfect. And would you like to nominate somebody on your behalf? Maybe
Just give it to the kids there.
the kids.
Any kids?
kids.
Give it to our Sundar Maharaj.
Sundar Maharaj. Sundar Maharaj, we give it.
Yeah, we'll give it to you. Yes, son. Okay, she's getting it on behalf of Sangamitra. All right.
Actually, 2 chocolates. This one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably you can nominate one more person.
Yeah.
And this is for the previous question. Sorry for the bad navigation. All right. Now inviting Swami Sarvasthananda to deliver his talk on Nivedita in UK with Swamiji. Swami Sarvasthananda is the minister in charge of Ramakrishna Vedanta Center, Buckinghamshire in UK. He's also the editor of the international journal Vedanta, published by the UK Center since 1953. He has represented Ramakrishna Mission in the UNESCO Conference on Youth and the Social Impact, and since 2017, he has been appointed as one of the 3 official monastic representatives of Ramakrishna Mission to the UNESCO events. Namaste and a warm welcome to you, Swamiji.
Om Jananim Saradam Devim
Ireland.
Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namashri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapa Harine. My pranams and namaskars to all the revered Swamijis. And it's a great pleasure and privilege to be participating in this online session to commemorate the 154th birth anniversary of Sister Nivedita. Before I begin to talk on the topic that has been given to me, and I will restrict myself to that topic, I would like to just give a brief description of the wonderful struggle which shows how great Sister Nivedita was even before she met Swami Vivekananda at 63 St. George's Drive in Pimlico in London. That was in 1895. We all know that after her father's death, she had to undergo a lot of hardships. And in spite of all that, she managed to complete her studies from Halifax College. And at the tender age of 17, she had to take up a job in a school at Keswick in 1884. Then she took up several other jobs in 1886 till 1889 in Wrexham and Rugby. But at the same time, during this period, she kept herself busy in various social, philanthropic, and other literary works. And she was writing articles in journals under different pen names. From 1890 to 94, she shifted and served in some schools in Chester and Wimbledon. And also during that period, she started the famous Wimbledon Literary Society. It was in 1894, before meeting Swamiji, she opened her own kindergarten school in Wimbledon, where we are going to, it's a good news for all of us that we have been given permission by the Wimbledon Council to install the third statue of Sister Nivedita, which is coming from India. Sister Nivedita University is likely to donate that statue and it will be installed as early as possible. This is the third statue. One is in Dungannon, of course, a small one, and then there was one more statue which was installed in her family cemetery in Torrington in Devon. That was a few years ago. And now, after a long struggle, we managed to get permission to install Sister Nivedita's bronze statue in a very prominent place in Wimbledon. And I hope by her grace, by the grace of the Holy Trinity of Sri Ramakrishna's Swamiji and Holy Mother, it will materialize soon. Now, after that, it was in Wimbledon that she slowly moved away from Orthodox Christianity. And suddenly she immersed herself deep in scientific ideas and also politics, and became a London journalist and one of the founders of the famous Sesame Club, a cultural body comprising of both sexes, which was very difficult in those days. Gender equality was not very common, not seen. She had contacts. Moreover, she was well known and she had contact with eminent personalities like George Bernard Shaw, T.H. Huxley, and the famous poet W.B. Yeats, and many more. Then we find she slowly got recognition as a woman who was well established in a brilliant career as a journalist, a famous educationist, a lecturer, and a fighter for every kind of human emancipation. This was before she met Swami Vivekananda in London. It was on Sunday, 10th November 1895. She met Vivekananda for the first time in a house, Lady Isabel Margeson's house at 63 St. George's Drive at Pimlico in London, where he gave an informal talk and answered many questions till late in the evening. We all know that Lady Margeson was an ardent feminist and a social and political activist, and was also the secretary of the forward-looking Sesame Club, which was co-founded by her friend Margaret, who was later known as Sister Nivedita. But the first meeting took place because it was Sister Nivedita's art teacher who told her that a Hindu Swami was coming to Lady Margeson's house and asked her if she would come. Nivedita immediately said yes. And the rest we all of us know is history. About this meeting, Sister Nivedita was initiated by Swamiji in 1898 in India. Later, she wrote to Josephine MacLeod in 1904. These are wonderful words. She says about this chance meeting which took her to Swami Vivekananda. She writes to Joe, suppose he, that is Swamiji, had not come to London at that time, life would have been a headless torso. For I always knew that I was waiting for something. I always said that the call would come, and finally it did come. We should remember here that it was the personality of Swamiji more than the thoughts he uttered in that 1 hour, in that first meeting, which gave her the assurance of experience rather than mere theory. And that was what drew her to his subsequent public lectures in England. Later, we see that she got a chance to hear Swamiji twice on November 13 and 23rd in his classes held at Oakley Street in England, in London. And these notes which she took from these two classes are now published in the complete works as The Religion of Love and Jnana and Karma. So then slowly the time came soon when Swamiji had to leave England, and Nivedita, who addressed him as the master, by now she had started addressing him as the master. Then she wrote about what she felt at that time. I'll quote her words. I had recognized the heroic fiber of that man, and desired to make myself the servant of his love for his own people. But it was his character to which I had thus done obeisance. So it was his character and the wealth of his experience, not just his ideas, that attracted Sister Nivedita. When Swamiji left for America that winter of 1895, Swamiji left for America, Margaret was pondering over three basic things which he got as a takeaway from Swami Vivekananda. First was the breadth and universality of his religious culture. The second was the great intellectual freshness and the interest of thought he had brought to them. And the third was the fact that his message was sounded in the name of that which was more lofty and pure and had no touch of any worldly elements of the life of man. So this transcendence or this spiritual quality endeared her to Swamiji. The second visit of Swamiji to London was in 1896. So I'll briefly describe that. Swamiji left New York. After from England, he went to America and he again came back from New York, and he left New York on April 15th, 1896 to return to London. Then he decided to plunge into some serious work and started his famous classes, which are now published partly, they're part of the Jnana Yoga, which comprises of the lectures he delivered in London in 1896, and also some lectures, New York lectures, which he delivered. So he started his classes on Jnana Yoga at the Royal Institute of Painters and Watercolors in Piccadilly, and then in Prince's Hall, regularly in both June and July of 1896. Fortunately, Mr. J.J. Goodwin was with him, who was a wonderful steno and a dear disciple of Swamiji, who followed him wherever he went. And it is only due to his hard labor that many of his lectures, Swamiji's lectures, have been preserved for posterity. So Margaret and her friends, they were among those who regularly attended these Jnana Yoga lectures. So to sum up what she thought about these wonderful series of lectures on Jnana Yoga, I'll quote. She wrote a report actually, which was published in the September 1897 issue of the monthly Brahmavadin, which was started under Swamiji's inspiration. So she wrote for Brahmavadin, giving a report, a very wonderful summary of all the things that he discussed in these Jnana Yoga lectures. She says, to one, the very conception of religion which preached universal tolerance, which held that we proceed from truth to truth, not from error to truth, was enough. To another person, deeply versed in our modern literature and especially in poetry, with its ever-recurring flashes of supreme intuition, it was Swamiji's famous dictum, I am God, that came as something always known, but which was never said before in history. Others were there who have been vaguely troubled by the anthropomorphism of our Christian doctrine of the fatherhood of God. These are Sister Nivedita's words. So the fatherhood of God, and these people found, those who believed in that, but they were vaguely troubled by this idea. These people found in Bhakti Yoga that such a conception was not final, though it is acceptable, but only one of the series passing by degrees into that sense of divine union or Advaita. According to Nivedita, speaking about these Jnana Yoga lectures which he delivered in 1896, Swamiji's greatest achievement during this visit consisted in his lectures on the Hindu theory of Maya. He did not interpret Maya as delusion, as most of the people have translated this term. According to him, according to Swamiji, Sister Nivedita says she believed that Maya is simple statement of facts, what we are and what we see around us. To break through that Maya is freedom and mukti. Man has not to be a slave of nature, and she quoted his words, not the soul for nature, but nature for the soul. Such bold assertions of Vedanta stirred the mind of Sister Nivedita. She was wonderfully impressed by what she heard. Then she wrote, one day, Swamiji, during one question-answer session, after a class, the Swami suddenly rose and thundered. These are her exact words. And that impressed her. That was the turning point of her life. Swamiji said, he thundered. He said, what the world wants today is 20 men and women who can dare to stand in the street yonder and say that they possess nothing but God. Who will go? And again, he continued, he said, why should one fear? If this is true, what else could matter? And if it is not true, what do our lives matter? So this statement coming from Swamiji's lips, this gave her tremendous inspiration. So in these words, the master, her master was, as it were, summing up the truth she himself had come to learn. And they evoked a response in her heart. She was aflame with a desire to follow his lead. But just then, she was not aware what she should be doing. So she wrote a letter from England itself to the Swami to find out from him his plan of work and how can she help him. And the reply came immediately in a very, very inspiring letter, which he wrote to her on 7th June 1896 from the same house, St. George's Road House, where there is a blue plaque installed by the English Heritage, where she had met him for the first time. It's worth quoting this letter because these are memorable words. Swamiji writes, and this whole letter is so important because that made her take the decision to follow Swamiji wherever he went, especially to India to fulfill his Indian mission. Swamiji writes in that letter, dated 7 June 1896, Dear Miss Noble, my ideal indeed can be put into a few words, and that is to preach unto mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. This world is in chains of superstition. I pity the oppressed, whether man or woman, and I pity more the oppressors. One idea that I see clear as daylight is that misery is caused by ignorance and nothing else. Who will give the world light? Sacrifice in the past has been the law, and it will be, alas, for ages to come. The earth's bravest and best will have to sacrifice themselves for the good of many, for the welfare of all. Buddhas by the 100 are necessary with eternal love and pity. And then he thundered. He said, religions of the world have become lifeless mockeries. What the world wants is not religion, but character. The world is in need of those whose life is one burning love, which is selfless. That love will make every word tell like thunderbolt. It is no superstition with you. I am sure you have the making in you. Mark the words, what he said, what he wrote to Nivedita. You have the making in you of a world mover, and others will also come. Bold words and bolder deeds are what we want. Awake, awake, great one. The world is burning with misery. Can you sleep? Let us call and call till the sleeping gods awake, till the God within answers to the call. What more is in life? What greater work? The details come to me as I go. I never make plans. Plans grow and work themselves. I only say, awake, awake. May all blessings attend you forever. Yours affectionately, Vivekananda. So this is the wonderful, inspiring letter which motivated her. And then on another day, immediately after a few days, Swamiji turned to her and said, I have plans for the women of my country in which you, I think, could be of great help for me. It was then she knew that she had heard a call that would change her life and enable her to dedicate it to her master's Indian mission. Then we see Swamiji goes on a tour to Europe in summer and returns to England by September 1896. He was eager to return to India And he finally left England on Sunday, December 16th with Captain and Mrs. Xavier, some wonderful disciples of Swamiji and Goodwin, who were keen to fulfill Swamiji's dream and start an Advaita ashrama in the Himalayas. Margaret was very keen to go, but Swamiji perhaps felt that she was not yet ready and she should come later. Anyway, after Swamiji left for India, Margaret tried to organize the Vedanta movement in London in the absence of Vivekananda with the help of E.T. Sturdy and many others. She also raised a lot of money for famine relief work in India started by the newly founded Ramakrishna Mission and was sending regular reports of London Vedanta activities to the Brahmavadian of Madras, the magazine, the monthly magazine. Finally, in 1898, she sails for India and reaches Madras on 24 January 1898. From there, she goes to Calcutta on 28 January, and Swamiji himself receives her. And thus begins her life in India, about which I'm not going to discuss. Other speakers will perhaps discuss it in greater detail. Then we come to the last visit of, last part of this talk, the visit to England with Swamiji and Turiyananji, which Sister Nivedita accompanied them in 1899. So after spending about a year and a half, on June 20th, 1899, Sister Nivedita left India for England. And then she went to the West with Swami Vivekananda to America, and Turiyananda primarily for collecting funds for her school. They reached England on 31st July. They first stayed at 21 High Street, Wimbledon, with the noble family, where, as I told, the English Heritage has put a blue plaque in her honor. Two other statues, as I said, in Torrington and Devon and Wimbledon will be. So it's a fitting memorial. These three places, the blue plaque and the statues, they are a fitting memorial to to Sister Nivedita. On board, now this was a very important phase. When they were traveling to England, on board during this sea voyage, she discussed with Swamiji various matters. And listening to his inspired utterances, she has described in the Master as I saw him to be the greatest occasion of her life, this journey, this sea voyage. She wrote, I'll quote her words, they are really worth reproducing here. She wrote, even a journey around the world becomes a pilgrimage if one makes it with the Guru. From the beginning of the voyage to the end, the flow of thought and story went on. She's talking about Swamiji. One never knew what moment would see the flash of intuition and hear the ringing utterance of some fresh truth. We all know she had the habit of making notes, which were later used as material for the book she wrote. Years later, she wrote to Mrs. Bull. She said, about my books, you know, they are all Swami's. He gave me the power and inspiration to write. On August 16th of the same year, 1899, Swami Vivekananda with Turiyananda left for America. Nivedita stayed for some time in England to join the marriage function of a sister. And later on September 20, she sailed for the USA and reached Ridgely Manor, another famous memorial in the name of Swamiji, Mr. Leggett's country house near New York, and joined a big party there who had already assembled there, staying there, which included Swami Vivekananda, Turiyananda, Abhedananda, Mrs. Bull, Leggett's, and many others. It was a big house. It's a wonderful memorial. On Sunday, and I'll conclude with that, with this incident. On Sunday, November 5th, Swamiji exhorted Nivedita to plunge into active work because he knew his end was very near. She wrote to Miss MacLeod on November 11 the following memorable words, with which I shall conclude now. She says, the words are so powerful. He says, if he means Swami Vivekananda, if he had my health and strength, I'm sure he would conquer the world. Did I know that I belong to his family? It was tremendous. And he ended with a blessing. Swamiji ended with a blessing in which the Guru was lost and it became all Father. She could see the Father in him. As he told me to go out into the world and fight a battle for him, the only thing he now wanted before he could pass away from the world into peace or death. So with this, I conclude. I think I've taken a little more time. I'm very happy that I got this wonderful opportunity to remember Nivedita and her association with Swamiji, who was a great inspiration, and the wonderful work she did based on that inspiration, both in England, America, and also in India. India, of course, was her major field of work. So I once again thank the revered Swamijis, revered and dear Swamijis, for giving me this opportunity to share a few words.
Pranam Swamiji. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the deep insights and interesting facts. We are so honored to have you here today. Thank you so much, Swamiji. And before we progress, before I call in the next participant, here's again a small question for all of you. In which college was Sister Nivedita educated in?
Halifax.
Yes, Halifax College. And Pritish Bhai or Jhuma Didi, you can have it together. Please collect your. All right. Inviting next is the Nightingale of EVS. Besides answering quiz questions, she's also a good singer. Sangamitra. She's well known for her mellifluous voice and melodious renditions. Sangamitra, welcome.
Thank you, Sharanya. Pranams to all revered Swamijis. I am Sangamitra. So I am having sore throat. Hopefully I will sing properly. I selected Vivekananda Vandana, which is penned down by Swami Abhedananda ji. And one more thing I just wanted to tell, like 1895, 10th November, first time, Sister Nivedita, she met Swamiji, and 10th November, it is my birthday as well. So in that way, I am connected with Ramakrishna Mission very intricately. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you. স্বদেশ বিদেশে উছলে উঠেছে তোমার নবীন তন্ত্র, আকাশ বাতাস ধ্বনিয়া তুলিছে তোমার মোহন মন্ত্র। নন্দিত ধরা মন্দির মাঝে ধরে মের শক গন্ধ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ। অরুণ কিরণ উছিলে উঠিলে উদিল যেদিন বঙ্গে, শরব্দ করিল সুরভি বৃষ্টি বরষি আশিস সঙ্গে। প্রেমের পূর্ণ প্রভায় সাজিল গৌর নিত্যানন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ। দুলোকের ছবি হেরিলে পুলকে গুরুর চরণ তলে আরতের সেবা মর্তে আনিলে হাসিয়া নয়ন জলে বিশ্ব প্রেমের বিকশিত খনি চিত্তে হরসানন্দ মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ জ্ঞানের গরিমা গৌরব গান ভারত মরম বাণী পাশ্চাত্য শেখা বেদান্ত গাথা শুনি বিষয় মানি স্নিগ্ধ ভাবের শক্তি মাধুরী মুগ্ধ নতুন ছন্দ মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ শিকাগো সঙ্গে সঙ্গীত তব শীর্ষে উঠিল ভাসি শুনিল বিশ্ব শুনিল নিশ শুনিল প্রাসাদবাসী সৃজিল শ্রীমঠ কুঞ্জ কুটির তীর্থ মুখরা বৃন্দ মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ. Thank you. I'm sorry for the glitches that I have. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Sangamitra. That was beautiful. Actually, your voice sounds sweeter with sore throat. That was very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, before we progress, as always, here's the next question. The answers have already been revealed by Swami Vimokshananda, Nandaji, while he was talking. So it's actually a giveaway. How did Sharada Devi Ma fondly address Sister Nivedita as? Yes. Cookie. I heard as cookie. Cookie. Yes. And what does that mean?
It means little girl.
Little girl. Yes. Yes. Leena Didi, she's not. Leena, yeah.
You said Leena.
Leena Didi.
Yeah. I heard my mistake.
All right. Coming up next is a very, very special person, a monk who's a leader, a compassionate spiritual guide, a man of principles, a revered person who's an epitome of grace, discipline, and love. He's adored and admired by his devotees for his profound knowledge on Vedanta, science, and Hinduisms, and jokes too. Welcoming our very own fulcrum of AVS, Swami Purnananda ji, to kindly deliver his speech on Nivedita's visit to Ireland. Namaste and pranam, Swamiji.
Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Salutations to that great king of renouncers and controller of passions, that great sage, Swami Vivekananda, who is Satchit Ananda, existence, knowledge, bliss absolute itself, spiritual preceptor, remover of all distress. So thank you for that introduction that I never recognized myself from it. Radhe Urt, that means grace of God be with you all. Revered Swamis and devotees, friends, I am sitting here in France and listening to all of you, and what a wonderful program you have all organized. I think one of the great treasures we have is a memory of our childhood. And Sister Nivedita, in her letters, expresses the joy of the childhood that she had. Cherished memories of sunshine days. She spent her early years, of course, in County Tyrone in Ireland. And of course, another carefree period was when her family moved to Torrington in Devonshire, in England. And that was, of course, because it was seen to be a healthier climate for her father. It would assist in his health. And he was very poorly at that time. Now, both of these places are well known for their rural simplicity. And we can see the evoked delightful memories from the mere nostalgia that she brings in. But that's one thing. But we get the feeling from Sister Nivedita's writings that in recalling her childhood memories and scenes, she felt the great sense of beauty in the country ambience, particularly in spring. The flowers and the spiritual atmosphere that was embedded in her very makeup evoked these particular images of spring and flowers in spring in these two beautiful rural areas. And she seems to have had a particular affection for primroses, giving us an insight, of course, into her wonderful aesthetic sense, her wonderful love of nature. The Latin name for primrose translates as the first flower. And indeed, this little plant even shows its head in sheltered places before the end of the old year. And we can see this as a kind of symbol for herself. The Irish variety of this flower generally flowers from April to May, when its small pale yellow flowers, with their deeply hued centers, decorate grassy banks, woodlands and roadsides. They are delicate, simple flowers that can also display a variety of colors. In Sister Nivedita's writings, we can get many, many clues about all of this. She writes, for example, "I am longing to see the primroses in Devonshire and Ireland." And again she writes, "Perhaps Assisi, Ireland, and Devonshire, all meccas of dreams to me." To rank Ireland and Devonshire on the same pilgrimage levels as the sacred place of Assisi, where the great mystic lover of Christ is honored, just says volumes of how she viewed these two places. She writes again, "I would have been glad to remember Richmond, her brother, and Ireland." She writes in a reference to her brother in her will, "Once more significantly remember Ireland, although it's unclear whether that was toward her family in Ireland or the Irish national struggle for freedom that she admired so much." She writes to Josephine MacLeod, "One thing I do want to see is primroses in England or Ireland, or both, next spring." And Sister Nivedita's wish to visit Ireland again was fulfilled, but of course, alas, not in spring. On the 24th July 1908, she left London with her friend, her dear friend, and his wife, Dr. J.C. Bose, and his wife, of course, for Edinburgh, ultimately bound for Ireland, the land of her birth and all her early childhood memories. And she had at least one close relative that we know of in Ireland, one Aunt Betty, and she refers to her in her letters. On Saturday, 8th August 1908, Sister Nivedita sailed for Ireland, possibly from Clyde to Belfast. And by Monday, 31st August 1908, we find her staying at Strabane Station's Ilford House, or Lilford House, I should say, was the exact address. This is Lifford House, I beg your pardon, not Lilford, Lifford House. That's in County Donegal. And from there, the Boses, who she was traveling with, departed for Dublin. And the reason was he was going to present a technical paper for the British Association for the Advancement of Science. It was entitled Mechanical and Electrical Response in Plants. As we know, J.C. Bose was a great proponent and a great investigator of the sensitivity, the electrosensitivity in plants. The transition, I should mention also that Sister Nivedita wrote all his papers. Of course, the content was his, but she took it on herself to write for him. The transition from summer to autumn in Ireland, as you well know, you're going through it now, or is somewhat unpredictable, to say the least. And she comments with a mix of frankness and good humor, along with a keen sense of Irish temperament. She says, "I find this climate makes me so cross that I can hardly control it." How frank she writes. "It is so variable and so absorbing," a kind of paradox, "full of subtle delights, but I believe that is why one type of Irish woman is so nervous and exacting. And I think the Irish amongst us know what she's talking about." From the 1st of September, Sister Nivedita enjoyed the company of her brother and sister-in-law, and she visited Ballycastle in County Antrim, where from there she took a ferry to the famous Rathlin Island, which is Ireland's northernmost point. Significantly, Rathlin Island was the site of the first Viking raid on Ireland. In 795, according to the Annals of Ulster, this merciless pillaging took place on the island's church, and they razed the buildings absolutely to the ground, destroying its holy shrines, its churches, its monasteries. And in 1306, on that same island, Robert the Bruce, the claimant of the Scottish throne, sought refuge there. And as a result, the island owners who harbored him were disposed by the English. And more significantly, however, the island was the site of bloody massacres of thousands of men and women, or men, women, and children actually, in the 16th and 17th centuries, over power disputes and religious persecutions. And we can be absolutely certain that none of this was lost on the keen and insightful Margaret Noble, Sister Nivedita, whose blood was Irish, Scottish, Celt, and whose English upbringing had given her mixed feelings over the years in India, with a balanced perspective and romantic air that was not hesitant in justified military endeavors. Nivedita writes that Ireland is a wonderful country with stone arrows and axes, an ancient fort some 4,000 years old, and a land full of castles, old castles and abbeys. Pillar stones galore, grand geologically and historically, and wonderful country. She repeats these time and time again, these various themes. Her enthrallment with Ireland is evident, recognizing it, of course, as the land, ancient land of saints and scholars. On Ireland, as she is keen for her sister's children to read the 3 books on Ireland, she makes sure that they read these and get the same kind of enthrallment that she has. The 3 books were included, the Norse period, and she highlights particularly Saint Bridget, the feminine patron saint of Ireland. And she describes her as the Mary of the Gael. She writes about the extraordinary character of Bridget and the extraordinary history and culture, the pagan culture that distinguishes Ireland. It is like India or Greece, she says, hardly Christian at all, and more untouched of Semitisms than even Egypt, and complete escape from the Reformation like France or Spain. And here we can see Nivedita's profound historical insight and feeling for different cultural aspects of different countries. But ever the educationists, her most favored recommended reading for children is Finn and His Companions by Standish O'Grady. This is a magnificent series of children's tales that could easily be the Irish equivalent of messages of Indian national pride in her ancient culture and heritage. The stories are recognizably Irish, not at all English. Now on 7th of September 1908, Sister Nivedita, along with her brother and sister-in-law, they joined the Boses in Dublin. And they joined the Boses where they were staying not far from where he was delivering papers. It was a Georgian house, it still is there today. Its address is 9 Upper Pembroke Street, and if we have the funds, why don't we purchase it? Although they stayed there for some 2 weeks before she sailed back from Liverpool to Boston in the USA, she makes some interesting skirmishes to places that we might recognize. She visits them for their beauty and for interest. Let's have a look at where she went. On the days of 14th and 15th September, she discovered the Irish High Kings of old, Kilton Abbey near Carrickmines, Dunleary, and on the 21st of September, she visited the historic town of Drogheda, noted for housing the relics of the great martyr, St. Oliver Plunkett. His head is there and certain other relics. The rest of him is in Somerset, in Downside Abbey. This is also, of course, the scene of Oliver Cromwell's cruelty to the Irish, and the Irish today remember it well historically. Among other places she visited were the mystical and pagan sacred grounds of the Irish High Kings, the Hill of Tara, and we always take visitors there. All this disturbance, all this foreign conquest, as it were, in Ireland, I'm sure was not lost to Sister Nivedita in an empathy for Ireland as well as India. She typically, of course, steeped herself in Irish history and culture, and it is a wonder when her master, it's no wonder really, when her master valued her above all else for her Celtic blood. And all this information is interestingly found in various letters. There are letters to Sarah Bull from in January 12th of January 1906. And then this was all written from Bagh Bazaar in Calcutta. And then a letter to Josephine MacLeod in 1907. Some of these references are there. And then, of course, the letter to her sister Mary from Dublin in 16th September 1908. So happy birthday, Sister Nivedita, and happy birthday to anybody whose birthday is on this day also. In a sense, it is all our birthday today. And so with that, I say, Benacht, blessings to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Swami Purnananda ji. Thank you for your words on Primrose and for drawing inferences from many a prose. Thank you, Swamiji. Now, as always, let me come up with the next question. What does the name Nivedita mean?
Dedicated one.
Yes, the dedicated one. Yes, Jhuma Didi, you get it.
I nominated
Please.
the youngest one, Adya.
But she already had one.
This is your opportunity
Yeah.
to photograph with somebody.
Please.
Then I should take. Then I should not miss.
And the award goes to. Yeah. Is it okay? Now, continuing with the question, the dedicated one was the answer. Now, I cordially invite Swami Shantivratananda to kindly deliver his talk on the dedicated one. Swami Shantivratananda ji is a gold medalist postgraduate at Bangalore University. The University of Mysore has awarded doctorate for his thesis, Swami Vivekananda's Concept of Man, an Analytical Study. Swamiji is a columnist and he regularly contributes articles to reputed journals. He is versatile in speaking many languages. He can speak Kannada, English, Sanskrit, Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Bengali, probably Irish in a few days' time. He has also authored books titled Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Dr. S. Radhakrishna Ravaru, Kanda Bharata. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Swamiji. Educational Philosophy of Gandhiji, Pavahari Baba, and Sashive Yalli Sagara 1 and 2. Welcomes and pranams, Swamiji. Request you to kindly take over.
Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padmetayo Shritva Pranamani Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. My reverential pranams to Revered Swami Vimokshananda Maharaj, Revered Swami Purnananda Maharaj, and my love and best wishes to all the devotees who are present here and also who are watching through Zoom. Indeed, I'm very thankful to you. Many phone calls I did get from Zoom or Google Duo or especially WhatsApp call. How are you, Swamiji? How is the cold? And what about your food? In India, they think a lot about the food. Especially they were asking whether you are okay with the food, or you are only there giving the bread and sandwich, or any other good food they are telling. So I was very assured all of them that in Ireland, the devotees are looking after me very well. Probably, I thought I am overweight, 5 to 6 kgs. I'm supposed to reduce. I thought in Ireland I will reduce, but in 1 week, whatever the food I got, probably I will not be able to reduce my weight here also. Such a love and hospitality is extended by devotees. I'm thankful for all of you. Coming to my topic, the Nivedita, the dedicated one. Whoever we have studied the life of Sister Nivedita, we all know how she dedicated herself for the welfare of the humanity. But probably most of us, we may be knowing, but it may be out of sight also. When Nivedita was in her mother's womb, Mary Isabel, she had some strange disease. Probably she had shown for some doctors and all, there was of no use. Then she accepted, or rather she prayed for divine grace. Oh Lord, please take care of me because I've got a child in my womb and she has to come out and she has to see the world. For her sake, I'm praying for my good health. And also I'm dedicating this child for the welfare of the humanity and for you. So Nivedita's mother, Mary Isabel herself, had dedicated the Nivedita for the welfare of the humanity and for the Lord and Lord's work when she was in a womb. Such a great mother and a blessed child too. And at the age of 25, before itself she started working because there was some financial problem in the house. Her father had passed away. And at the age of 25, in UK or London, she had started a school implementing her own views, educational ideas, which benefit for the welfare of the humanity, which we all know. When she approached Swami Vivekananda, I have accepted you as a teacher. I would like to serve you. How can I serve you? Immediately, the young monk, Vedantic monk, Swami Vivekananda told, serve my motherland. Instantly, he gave this reply, and Nivedita also accepted, yes, I will. And she came in 1898 and she started a school. We all know that Nivedita school. Holy Mother herself came and opened the school. Imagine the Universal Mother, Jagannatha herself, she has come and opened the school. How Nivedita was blessed indeed. After starting a school, it was not a cakewalk for Nivedita. Because of continuous invasion in India, and there was due to the unnecessary thinking or with a narrow thinking, the women education had become a dream in India. When Nivedita started a free school, hardly she got students. So she used to go to door in Calcutta. She used to beg the parents to send the children for schooling. But many of the time, they used to shut the door. They never used to listen to her. Many times she pleaded, sometimes probably she used to touch their feet. She used to plead them, please send your children, especially girls, so that let them have education, let them have a bright future. Here, we should remember, Holy Mother used to tell for many devotees that, please send your children to Nivedita school. Many will have their bright future. And also there was a lot of financial problem. She has to come to England and US to collect the funds. And she, with all, in spite of these difficulties, she started a school for girls in India, and she was able to achieve for a larger extent. And also, at that time, she started a vocational course for widows like tailoring and etc. And one more thing which is coming to my mind is plague. That time, due to plague, hundreds of people or thousands of people were dying. Swami Vivekananda called Swami Swarupanji, Swami Sarvasthananda. He called him and Sister Nivedita and some of the disciples to serve the mankind, serve the Calcutta people. Day in and day out, they never cared for them. They never cared for their food. They never cared for the sleep or comfort. Day in and day out, they worked for the deceased people. They used to clean the roads. Sometimes probably they used to take the corpse and they used to clean the houses. They used to apply the limestone liquid for the houses. Such type of dedication we can see in Nivedita's life. That's why Rabindranath Tagore aptly addressed her as Lokamata. And she had given such a impact on many people. For an example, namely Subramanya Bharati, who is again the freedom fighter, who hails from Tamil Nadu. He dedicates a beautiful poem to Sister Nivedita. The poem goes like this: an offering to grace, a temple of love, our sun that dispels the darkness in my heart, as benevolent rain to my thirst land, as unbounded wealth to the destitute, as a burning flame to the bondage of slavery, exists Mother Nivedita, at whose feet I bow in adoration. Subramanya Bharati, that time itself in India, he was one of the notable persons as a freedom fighter. He got a lot of adoration to Sister Nivedita. Means what was her personality? You can imagine. Hundreds of people felt themselves shyful in front of Sister Nivedita, seeing the patriotism towards India and her views about the serving humanity. For example, as already I mentioned, while he was serving the plague deceased people, initially many of the youngsters, they used to laugh at her. After slowly seeing her philanthropic mindedness, service mindedness, and dedication, they felt ashamed, and they also started the serving voluntary service for the benefit of the humanity. Such type of impact was created by Sister Nivedita. And she had a lot of, I already as mentioned, she had a lot of financial implications. Many times, because there was a financial crisis, many times she used to take hardly milk and fruits only. Many times even she used to cut short her taking milk and fruits. She felt probably if I can save 1 paisa or 2 paisa, I will be able to serve the humanity. And once she had taken the Nivedita, the girls, for a Calcutta trip. Among them, there were probably 4 or 5 from the very aristocratic traditional family. And there was a horse carriage. In the horse carriage, it was arranged by the Nivedita for all of them for the Calcutta tour. In middle of the tour, they expressed to drink the water in the public tap. Nivedita gave her own glass for them. Most of them, or many of them, they drank with the Nivedita's glass. But these 4 or 5 people who came from traditional family, they were not ready to drink the glass of water from her hand. But probably, and she's taking free, she's giving a free school, free education, and she's paying by her own pocket, and she's arranged this tour. In the midst of that, if someone probably exhibits such type of behavior, definitely any one of us, we get angry. But in contrast, Nivedita never got angry. She wiped from her gown the whole glass, and she kept a little distance, and she said, now the glass is dry. I think you should not be having any problem. Now you can take the glass and you can drink the water. She goes to that extent. They wash the glass and again they drink the water, and they say that there's no problem. And Saraswati Puja was arranged in her school. She and Sister Christian felt that probably if we cook or if we prepare some sweetmeats, the traditional family girls, they may not touch. Feeling that, they request the children to prepare sweets for Saraswati Puja. Many of the girls, they were very happy. They prepared some sweets and some other dishes, and they brought and they offered Saraswati for Saraswati, and they did Saraswati Puja. But Sister Nivedita and Sister Christian were with the distance, they were watching all these things and they were enjoying, because they felt if we come near and if it is probably, they feel that it is not fit to eat, so they may not eat, feeling that they were standing aside. But by seeing that, the girls felt ashamed, and the girls themselves, they went and the girls brought Sister Christian and Sister Nivedita, and they also offered flowers for them, and they also asked flowers to gave flowers to offer Saraswati, and all of them, they sat and ate in one place. Such type of mind was stayed slowly by seeing the dedication of the Sister Nivedita. These are the few examples where we can remember a sevaka or sevaki, a servant of the God, a servant of the humanity, how he or she should work. There may be financial problems, there may be ups and downs. Some people may respect us, some people may not respect us. in spite of all that, how we should serve the living God, or how we should put the Vedanta into practice as expounded by Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. For that, the sister Nivedita is the testimony. We shall all imbibe that philanthropic mindedness, service mindedness, practical Vedanta, so that we shall also try to serve the living God and the humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you so much for your dedicated message and for your insights. And perhaps this could be one of the last few questions, or perhaps the last question. We all know that Sister Nivedita was born in Ireland. In which county was she born in? Which county?
Antrim.
Tyrone.
Donegal.
Yes. Tyrone is the answer.
Tyrone.
And the right answer was from Brian. Excellent. All right, coming up next is a very compassionate and cheerful couple. They are well reputed for their dedication in leading the weekly Aarti Vespers and for their great potential to organize and coordinate events and programs. Inviting Jhuma Didi and Prithvish Bhai to kindly render vocal as well as tabla, a song on Swami Vivekananda. Yes. Sorry, just a second.
Thank you, Sharanya, for your kind remarks and compliments. I'm touched, and we'll be singing Murta Maheshwara, composed by Sri Sharat Chandra Chakraborty. And before that, we will do a pranam mantra for Swami Vivekananda. I request all the devotees present here to join in. This is a song which we often sing, and this is in hymn number 24, page 29. So let's start with the pranam mantra. Namah Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamini Tapaharini. We start Murta Maheshwara. Murta Maheshwara Mujwala Bhaswara Krishna Bhavanara Kanya. Murta Maheshwara Mujwala Bhaswara Krishna Bhavanara Kanya. Thank you. I pronounce to all the Swamijis present.
Thank you so much, Jhuma Didi and British Band. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. And as you all can see at the background, the cake that was shared in the group, prepared by Georgiana, is ready to be cut and to be shared as prasad for all the devotees present. So kindly request, as per Swami Vimokshananda Ji's, we'd like the Swamijis as well as all the kids present here to kindly cut the cake.
Yes.
We can sing that song.
Yeah.
Sure, Swami.
Yeah, sing.
1, 2, 3, 4. Janmadina vidam, hai priya sakhe. Janmadina vidam, hai priya sakhe. Santanotu re sarvada mudam. Santanotu re sarvada mudam. Prarthayamahe bhavasatayushi. Prarthayamahe bhavasatayushi. Ishvara sada tvam charakshanam. Ishvara sada tvam charakshanam. Punya karmana kirtimarjaya. Punya karmana kirtimarjaya. Jivanam tava bhavatu sadhanam. Jivanam tava bhavatu sadhanam. Janmadinamidam hai priya sakhe. Santanotu re sarvada mudam. Sarvada mudam. Sarvada mudam. Want to sing happy birthday in English as well? So all of them can join.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nivedita. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, last but not the least, I now cordially invite Paul Hipwell, who's the principal trustee of Éire Vedanta Society, who's been associated with Éire Vedanta Society for about 12 years now, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sharanya. I won't hold you up from those lovely cakes. Just very briefly, on behalf of the trustees, including Basil Conroy, who unfortunately can't make it, we'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to all involved in this evening's wonderful celebration, and to our revered Swamijis, and to Jean McGuinness as well, and Brian O Halluin's song, amazing song, actually, lovely music. And just to pick out some highlights, if I may, to who am I leaving out? To Jhuma, thank you so much, wonderful. And to Sangamitra, I'd be inclined to agree with you, Sharanya. I think her voice is all the sweeter. So thank you everybody, and with that I hand it back to you. I won't hold you up. The cakes look lovely, so enjoy.
Thank you so much, Paul.